changers as our year starts to ramp up and we
Shout
still have
out
our
orgs.
main event. Yeah, shout out orgs. Thanks for putting ink to
orgs.
paper. And we got the main
Orgs.
event going down
By
next
Jokes.
month. Oh my god. Go on now.
I learned what Jolts was by Emily the other day. I'm starting to become a Zoomer again. But that said, she doesn't even know what J stands for in Jolts. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Let's say if we have a tech pause or something. We'll go in the action now. It's Fly already pushing towards the A main.
No chance.
What is this? And Ev just goes completely unchecked on this walkout or walk-up. FlyQuest are kind of getting away with more than I expected as Ghost Gaming quickly sprint over to B. Have a good read off of playing off their own Viper wall too, and it's a quick plant.
Flipping a map as well. All 4 players pushing towards the spawn. The defender spawn is huge. That's going to catch some players off guard and maybe make things a little more difficult for FlyQuest to really try to go for the retake because they're going to be so isolated.
Yeah, FlyQuest were kind of splitting up, and now the duel is stacked together, and Bob can lead the way, suppressed, but doesn't matter. Ghost Gaming fire back in the biggest of ways. It's a 2 versus 2. The spike gets tapped, forces out some post-plant molly from Ghost Gaming. Now they just have to play this dance against Lace before going 1 for 1. And Zaya takes damage from the molly, so it's a Ghost Gaming pistol after all that.
Yeah, just unfortunate. Touching a little bit of the snake bite, double vulnerability, and then drops to a single shot to the chest. But yeah, it was definitely looking like we had a little bit of a deathmatch battle on both sides of the map. And both sides where it was weak was taken advantage of. So losing that player earlier on the B side, unfortunately, made it very difficult for FlyQuest to fast rotate back into the B site. You're moving back into B with 0 information. And again, when you're isolated in these moments, you have Ghost that has power of numbers to try to win these fights in. He brings it down to a duel. That is one here on the side of Ghost, who continues on with 3 Bulldogs in this round. No Outlaw in the side on the side of Benita. Says looks like they want to try to go for the Marshall play instead, which is fine. It's a good read. There's no armors being purchased here from the side of FlyQuest. We are all stacked up here towards B, and we're expecting once again another B push.
Keep flank walking. Header is 2 towards spawn. Ghost Gaming aren't going to get any duels as they just fully take over the A site. At the back, they've heard a drop down from a FlyQuest member. We're on the back side, so Ghost Gaming, they plant, they back out. I'm worried about this Viper wall, though, from Thea, if that's going to block off Ghost Gaming vision, but that's exactly why they have Vanitas set up. With the Marshall, it's probably not the best weapon to contend if anyone drops down on her like this, just gets overwhelmed. And Ghosts were just not able to support her in that position. Taurus is doing what they can off the molly. It's going to do some trickle damage. 3 versus 3. Spike's getting tapped. Ghost ears have been perked up, but they just cannot see from the other side. They're just going to hose down the spike, and that's enough to win the round for Ghost.
At least some damage done. Lace will fall to the spike, but the last 2, I mean, they invested 3 Bulldogs into this one and a Marshall and only come out with 2 of them. So that means that going into this round, one of the players will not have the best of buys, or they're going to invest into the rifles instead to have smaller shields. And that's actually not too bad on the side of FlyQuest. If they wanted to have somebody like Bob play into an Outlaw, it would have been huge, but looks like Bob wants to go for the Phantom instead. Overall, though, within the round in itself, good damage being done by FlyQuest, but that's what I'm talking about here for Ghost's comp. You have to pay attention to the pulse plant utility that they have. The Tejo missiles. You have the mollies coming out from the KJ. You also have the molly coming out from the Viper and molly from KO. You need that suppressor to come through, and you need the wall to be effective here for Lace for them to get the most value out of the defuse and the retakes.
That's good to keep Ariel in that spot. You had some kind of funny walk-ups from FlyQuest off the pistol, but obviously it's a different round. Flash in. No one there. Or tap. Bullets coming from the defense. And FlyQuest have been playing out of sight mostly. At least that's what Ghost Gaming was conditioned to think. They do end up getting a big win, flushing out FlyQuest. Null command has to be used though, and FlyQuest find themselves on the outside looking in, depending on what Lace can do on the flank. If it does ever come in on time though, that's what I'm worried about. And the flank is snuffed out by Ariel. It's all up to Bob, and almost had the lineup. It's now just the 1v1. And the spike hasn't been planted yet, so Ariel can't even play time.
Oh, but with
30
the alarm
seconds.
button, Bob knows exactly where Ariel's at!
What a Red Bull clutch
Everyone's
by
so
Bob,
happy.
dropping 45 kills in that last series, being the GOAT and challengers under the Blue Otter banner to helping FlyQuest get the first round on the board. That is so stoic.
Yeah, and with a Red Bull clutch, I mean, they almost had the res up onto Bunny B2 on the side of Ghost Gaming. Remember, you have a buff coming through from KO this time around on this patch where his res takes a lot less time to bring him up, even cut down by half, if I'm not mistaken. At 1.5 seconds, he usually comes up. And then his flashes are even better when it bounces off the way that it is, which is why you're seeing Bunny B using him right now and using it to full value.
Tejo drone. Not getting much, but forcing FlyQuest back. Now hanging around. Somehow Lace is already down to 10 HP.
Yeah, that's the outlaw from Vanitas.
Ouch. Now FlyQuest have to play in so much cover and just off of maybe the Owl drone or even the recon contact from Ev and Ghost
God.
Gaming show face, and now they don't have one anymore.
Bob is insane. She continues to impress me every time I watch her play. You saw just a clutch on the previous round, not the wall bang after seeing Vanitas just dash away and just wall bangs for the kill. And those were just taps to the wall in every single hit.
Spike down A.
She does it again. Bob is a
She's going
menace.
to drop over 1,000 here in this series, Jen, at this rate.
I'm pretty sure she's the #1 ACS player in Game Changers, but that's just off of week
Would
1,
not
of
be
course.
surprised.
So,
Would
and
not be
she,
surprised.
Seconds left.
she could keep that up. FlyQuest have such a stacked roster, and yeah, they're incorporating like new players like a Lovely, but I think with strong players who also there's so many good communicators on FlyQuest that it's probably easy to slot into this team.
One enemy remaining.
Stayed
Spike
hidden the
down,
whole
mid.
time as well,
10
just to get that
seconds left.
big patience coming out from Thea. Nullifying the alert coming out from Guitaris, and that's pretty much GG for the round. The spike's already down. 3per is watching it, and you got to save your weapons into the next. Yeah, and you got to find a way to stop Bob. I was just trying to say keep an eye on Lace for these retakes, but if Bob's going to keep playing this way and not be able to let you set foot even past the orb into the A site or anywhere she plays, you're going to be in for a huge awakening.
And Vanita is out of all the duelists, Jet is their least played one in the past couple of months. Much more known for Raze and Neon. It's not like a shade thing, it's just mostly that Bob really is she/her. Usually I'm gonna be playing a lot more Initiator with the Blue Otter side of things, but she can frag on any agent. Oh, Ghost getting clipped off the bat, and up close and personal. A Lovely is gone, and Ghost Gaming wanted to traverse now the seas of at least this Viper wall. Good check from Vanitas. It's a pair gang of FlyQuest. We're hoping to hold down the site as best as they can. All the power. Focus on this left side. This ISO with Lace has kept Ghost at bay, and the wraparound from Bob is all she wrote to put a stop to Ghost.
And the question was there to see how Lace could do on a duelist. We haven't seen her too much yet, especially me. And you could definitely see that she's playing grid shot pretty much. 1 kill, tapping the orb, shields always reactivated. The suppress was perfect to allow Bob to get the backstab. And you're looking at a team like FlyQuest where double duelists kind of like made a mark throughout Masters Bangkok or just anything leading into this one, thankfully, to D1. And also, for example, Fnatic running the Yoru ISO on Haven. And since then, you're starting to see a couple more teams playing and getting value out of double duelists.
Surprised about that walk-up from Lace, because he had kill contract. I thought maybe you could have hung back and just played off of that so you could respawn with your team. You wanted to use it, but I can respect FlyQuest trying to do something new, fight for the orb, because FlyQuest have been sealing themselves off from that with the Viper walls, so...
I agree. It could have been a good win con, too, as well for Lace to maybe even sacrifice herself if she gets that pick onto Miara, which wouldn't allow here for Ghost to have such a oppressive execution. Because I think the Armageddon with the pit is now next on the cards. Next on the cards here for Ghost Gaming to get a successful full fight attempt.
Salvo scores FlyQuest backs against the wall, and it's kind of deja vu to the last round. FlyQuest just having to look through towards the left side, and Ghost Gaming have their pits set up, not even needing the Armageddon, really. Zev forcing some movement with the shock bolts, thinking about stepping in, at least wants Bob to kind of help surround the pits if there's anyone playing around the perimeter. Ghost trying to keep their Viper safe, and Thea versus Kataris, and the pit still stands. Ghost Gaming, how long to be able to protect this spike now that the pit is gone? Everyone is exposed, and that means Bob can go hunting, but the spike is ticking down, and there's just not going to be enough time for her nonetheless. So, we're tied 3-3.
And you just saw Bunny Bee throw underhand flashes as well. That's also been buffed up since the KO patch, where if you actually get hit by that flash, it extends the duration of you being blinded. It really just slowed down like that. The small split second extra that you get here from being consistently flashed allows Ghost Gaming to guarantee her the pulse plant win. Again, Miara didn't have to even use her Armageddon. With the time remaining, had even more salvos coming up, and that's very difficult to deal with here on the side of FlyQuest when you're not able to shut down this oppressive Tejo on the side of Ghost Gaming, who are now trying to work towards this B side. After throwing salvos earlier on, it's a condition to keep FlyQuest at bay, a stack towards the A side. Big responsibility on Thea with a knock. Oh, sorry, it's a Marshall. It's a Marshall who does a bit of damage.
AB op. Big op is on its way though from the A side.
Big brother
Ghost
op.
Gaming. Ghost Gaming try to duel at range. Nothing obscuring them. Hunter's Fury to try and tone down Ghost Gaming, but the spikes are even planted. Something that maybe Ev was trying to prevent, but it only just sets up the pins for Bob to knock them down. The big ol' op, and it's just Kataris left on the post plan, already pinged on the other side of the yellow box. And can just play ring around the Rosie. Wait a minute, it's flying really good time. Did they run out of bullets? I don't know, but FlyQuest pull off a win in the 3 versus 1.
Yeah, almost both of them were just trying to tap each other, trying to have some clean shots in the highlight reel. But yeah, definitely Bob. I mean, we saw this happen off cam, but those are 2 shots that instantly hit on the side of Bob. So you're right, the big brother op came through and protected the little Marshall. And it was very hard here for Ghost Gaming to take control of yellow towards danger, especially when the wall went down here for the Viper. I feel that means that there's a little bit of mistiming to generate the right amount of fuel for them to get a plant and successfully escape out of position. That allows here FlyQuest to get some easy picks as some players are caught off guard out in the open. Now,
Stinger and Guardian buy from Ghost.
Working together towards this A side, and I like that at the beginning. They stayed towards the spawn. FlyQuest already went for a recon dart from Ev down towards the middle, and it didn't spawn anybody, so they're still thinking that Ghost Gaming are playing the slow creep up on extremities. Look at this instant rotate. 4 players stacked up once again, but the setup is not the best here for FlyQuest. There's such a huge gap towards middle. The turret is only going to spot very passively into kitchen, so you could get some good control here towards 2. Or you even get suppressed.
And to suppress the KJ, tables that, and knowing that she's the only one around, Ghost Gaming can go in more confidently. They just have to worry and kind of adapt to this Bob off that absolutely ruined them last time, and it's a huge opening with Bunny Bee. Now, you kind of deny some of these sidelines, but there doesn't seem to be enough fuel from Kataris. Or at least it's deciding to keep that open, and a plant is not successful. FlyQuest rotation's too quick, so you have to invest the
30
lockdown
seconds left.
Try to get people away. Now the Armageddon too. Ghost Gaming just don't feel confident or secure on the plan until now. At least that chaos created that window. Wrap around, big shot from Bob. A good read on the yellow box swing from Ghost Gaming. And now they hang even further back in response to this off. And this is just kind of deja vu from last round. FlyQuest play off the op, advances Ghost Gaming, hide and cover. Now the spike gets tapped, and it's a 1v3 that Bunny Bee can't pull off. Valiant effort though, but 2-round win streak for FlyQuest.
But I gotta say, Miara's utility on this Tejo is actually really, really good. Again, faking towards the A side for that drone to actually spot a Lovely, and drop her util because the stealth drone is able to suppress her. But then also using Armageddon at a good spot here to try to push FlyQuest in a different spot away from Snowman, so that you can't get the best out of value of Bob's position with the op before. But you need a little bit more for the rest of the team in these post-plant scenarios. If it's BR is creating all this space and you could play better positions here on the side of Ghost, things could be a little bit different for them. But they seem to not have an answer to be able to shut down Bob here on these retakes after it. It's crazy how much value she's getting on any weapon that she uses so far.
And just thinking about our last series on Icebox, and when you had that problematic op of Starbound, what SRG did was just hound them with so many smokes, whether it was the harbor walls and the Viper walls. Like, there was so much layering from SRG, and Kataris isn't keeping the walls up long enough to really deny Bob any kind of real estate or at least vision of Ghost Gaming. So that would be the only response, minus, you know, fighting fire with fire by your own op, which they can't afford right now. So maybe it's just ignore B. But even then, you hit B and the op wasn't there, rotates in, and it causes a lot of problems. So I don't know what Ghost Gaming can do. Yeah,
and you were mentioning that for Vanitas, it's not the main agent that they use here for as comfort for duelists. So for Ghost Gaming to actually choose this map for their map pick to force Vanitas on a jet to play against somebody like Bob, that's a lot of pressure. It's not going to be an easy fight all the way. Unfortunately, Taya gets suppressed, so he won't really allow for her to bring up the wall and just try to hide.
Wow, just a free walk-up like that? Like, I guess Ghost Gaming thought the salvos were enough to get Thea all the way out of the site, but up close and personal, Thea's getting insane value of 2 kills that round. Contract from Lace to try and give FlyQuest, continue the FlyQuest advantage. A huge win for Lace to win the round and double the score of Ghost Gaming.
Hey, that's a small mistake coming through here from Ghost Gaming. I gotta say again, there's been some pretty decent ways to scale up on the map through the back of Miara. And even Miara there with the stealth drone does a little bit of parkour with the stealth drone and is able to spot and suppress Thea. So remember, there's no orb that's going to come through. There's no wall that can come up. She can't snake bite to the lay. You have to know after it pings her that she's playing towards yellow still. Maybe it was a timing of they were trying to dash towards the back and trying to pinch forward, and the Buddy Bee should have closed that gap to pin from the other side and just make sure that you trade off at least that position away.
All right, that's the type of confidence I want to see out of Vanitas, just dashing in, getting attention towards them. The null command activated from Bunny Bee as they start marching towards Thea to dislodge that. And this time it's cleaner from Ghost Gaming. They do lose that duelist lord that they had in mid. Vanitas is gone, and FlyQuest reestablished, and Ghost Gaming, they haven't had like a clear and safe window to plan. They're gonna have to kind of play more mind games and pivot, and FlyQuest are right on their tail. If anything, a Lovely is trying to walk up and cut off these rotations. Can't get a good win because just overwhelmed by numbers. But FlyQuest at least have a read of where this is going next.
It's not over yet though. There's still good util from Ev, and Bob's still alive. So it has to come down to Bunny Bee with the cerebral play of playing back towards Boiler.
One enemy remaining.
Kind of hesitate on the plant there. How close FlyQuest were. Bunny Bee with the 3rd, searching the 4th, and even the wraparound behind Ev. This was cooked, and it's been such a cat and mouse game between the two. FlyQuest just always playing close to Ghost Gaming in terms of rotations, and
yeah,
Ghost Gaming pull off a win there, but barely.
I like that we actually went for a little bit of a lurk play at the very beginning of the round too for Ghost Gaming with the pressure that they bring towards the middle and B side. They consistently be doing behind the stealth drone. They kept the player on the outside. Kataris over towards A, wins that duel in that spot. Forces Lovely to try to go for a hero play on middle against 3 players. You're just dismantling the defense of FlyQuest little bit by little bit throughout the round. Turned out to be quite nice, and you're starting to see the gameplay continues on. We continue to have these 4-1 scenarios of pressure on one end, lurk on the other, and it's Thea versus Kataris over B.
And no op this time from Bob too, but Ghost Gaming don't know that yet. I think you're worried about going to A when kind of heard Noya in the interview how annoying it is on Icebox to face a perma op. So just trying to pressure that op into an uncomfortable spot. Ghost Gaming, no yellow box has been a spot that they has held before. And I'm surprised you don't just early pit here once you get a sense that they're nearby. And now that she's unsuppressed, maybe she'll think about it. Does Ghost Gaming also have a deep lurk from Ariel in A?
Tarts destroyed.
Yeah, Ghost continues to want to play inserts, but they haven't really cleared utility on the A side. So now you're walking back for an A side hit with 30 seconds left on the clock, and there's 4 players over here for FlyQuest.
30 seconds left.
Still a knife left from Bunny B, and that suppresses FlyQuest. I think it did, and they seem to be holding their own and just have to fight through it without util, and FlyQuest still hold their angle as well. It's an absolute bloodbath for Ghost Gaming to get control of the site. There's only 10 seconds.
10 seconds
And
left.
Ghost Gaming only playing when they're absolutely sure they could win. You spot the barrel of the gun from Ev. Repositions, shock bolt to deny the plant. Wasn't able to do so. Maybe tags Miara, and Kataris is bleeding at the seams too. Ev does their best. I said the 1v1 but can't clutch against Miara. And we are at 6-5 with 1 round left.
Yeah, another
Last
big round.
round in the
Again,
half.
Miara. Maybe I don't think the kill column here from Miara isn't the highest, but they're so valuable so far for Ghost Gaming. And I have my head in my hands. I was like, dude, they're doing so well right now for Ev to be able to sneak through and win this 1 versus 2 because they're finding the perfect timing over at these spots. But just unfortunately, these shots didn't hit. And now for the last round, there's at least 3 big ults to work with for the side of FlyQuest. They're trying to go aggro here.
Oh, with a jug. Okay, knives out. That's probably going to be a little bit better. Dodging KO suppression. Surprising Vanitas, but not getting a win. Salvos could be tagging up Ev2. Ghost Gaming that need to put on the press. The aggression that was presented. They've swatted it all away. And the Armageddon just washes FlyQuest away. So Ghost Gaming will have a 3-on-1 advantage. Spike down.
Yeah, that's twice. 2 rounds in a row that the knife has been annoying to deal with. Lubli's now on a 1v2. The late lurk coming out from Qataris.
This lockdown, it's going to get them so much free space too. Off of Raptors, good timing on the push. But the wraparound's been destroyed. At least Lovely will have info on 1. And Lovely, trying to pick up the pace with the time that is left. And a good shutdown from Qataris. Okay with the kneel down. 6-6 half. Okay.
Switching sides.
Still works towards the end here for Ghost Gaming, but I was a little bit surprised that Qataris forced themselves to actually push and break the lockdown. Because Miara is already out of position. Miara also has salvos to work with the delay. You don't really want to give your position away on a 2v1. You have an opportunity there. You're already committed to lurk and flank. Just let that all go. And then you have an opportunity to just delay with the salvos and then get the backstab towards the end. But nonetheless, still got the round off the stink by duel 1v1. And FlyQuest, as you mentioned before here, Lemon Kiwi there's still great confidence coming out of the side of Ghost Gaming despite the scoreline showing a very close game. And for FlyQuest, they want to do very similar things as their opponents here on the A side, trying to pressure very early on that spot. They get a KO knife. It seems to be so annoying to deal with. The side of Fly.
Yeah, you really have to use your aggression if you're FlyQuest against this, but imagine what Bob can do on an offensive jet, and mid is just completely open, something that Ariel was supposed to watch, but also she has responsibility of watching over B, so that opens up a big gap where those teams got backstabbed, but they're still winning at least on the front lines. FlyQuest have to pivot.
I'll hear all of this pivot so far. So much noise being made because they know that they have a timing to break a 2v1 towards this B site. Already breaking, attempting to break Nanoswarms. Coming out from Ev. They'll get the plant and manage to get out of it unscathed.
Yeah, those salvos take a while to get there. Now Ghost Gaming have to flush out that power position of Yellow Box. Fight position from Bob in Kitchen. Bunny B will escape with half their life left. Ghost Gaming have a good step on this retake. And it continues to just survive and thrive as Ghost Gaming just pushed so well as a team.
Yeah, unfortunate scenario there for Bob. Trying to shoot a player with their back burn against her is just very, very difficult to hit. Yeah, I don't know why. It's just occurs for a lot of players in tactical FPSs. Happens to the best of us, but it's Ghost Gaming. The confidence that you're mentioning that they were exuding here on their attack side shows that they have a very confident defensive side, especially with how the results came through. I think it was like, what, 3 players still surviving after the pulse plant for the defuse? But for FlyQuest, they're doing a good old G2. Getting the plant on the first round of the pistol on the attack. They're going for a stinger buy and staying as a death ball to try to fight.
Yeah, interesting for us is Ghost Gaming have now won both pistols.
Revealing area.
But it still ended up being a 6-6 half. Ghost Gaming were never able to build too much momentum until the 3-round win streak. And man, FlyQuest just swarming through both defenders. You have Bunny B rotating at the back. The cutoff from mid is coming for Benitez. And FlyQuest have a lot of angles they have to watch, including a long-range sightline finally denied there by a Lovely. You got a 2 versus 2, but an Outlaw that's gonna see more success at range. But Ghost Gaming, you may not even see much action. I think FlyQuest usually just hide and react to the spike getting tapped and not walk into this Outlaw crossfire. Now Ev is just trying to prevent Spike from getting touched, and the defuse is going to be held. Ev has to prevent it, but Benitez, great support for Ghost Gaming.
I was looking so well in a 2v2, especially with the long-range pistols that were, or should I say long-range stingers that were coming back in favor of FlyQuest. But on that 2v2, I'm not too sure what causes a Lovely to rotate out in the open behind the double box. I know that they've already spotted that or understood that Miara is trying to scan and they're playing in towards Snowman. But you're still playing a 2v2 against somebody who has an Outlaw that they already rotated over, that got a pick coming in from Orange. And you left yourself exposed and didn't give a chance here for your teammate to just swing with you for an absolute trade. Small mistake is rendered costly now this time for FlyQuest, especially going into this round. But Lace has something else to say with the Guardian. Gets a nice little first blood in the very beginning, but manages to get out, yes, but heavily damaged towards the end.
FlyQuest really believing they could win that second round of the half in the forest, and now they deny a lot of weapons out of Ghost Gaming, sure, but find themselves on mostly a Sheriff save, and Lace, you may want to give the Guardian to someone else if she's going to have 13 HP, but it's really what's going to help you propel and get control of A with these long-range fights if you can get the Guardian going. But I'm thinking FlyQuest could try to pivot and hit a weaker site instead of fighting fire with fire.
I kind of would like for Lace to start giving the Guardian away to Bob, and then Bob switching the Sheriff over to Lace. Just use somebody that has better HP, full shield on Bob on top of that, to try to get some damage with the Guardian. Definitely does more damage at distance, especially with a shot to the body.
All right,
30 seconds left.
Exactly, play the standard wall and try to plant.
It's tough. As soon as you bring the wall up, you just heard that flurry of bullets from Ghost Gaming. I like that pressure because FlyQuest haven't moved an inch because of it. Now Bunny B denied that sight line. I'm surprised Ghost Gaming aren't going to continue spamming. I mean, they know where they are. It's 8 seconds, and they prevent the spike from getting planted. Oh, and the planter is killed. Everyone from FlyQuest falls. Ghost Gaming at the firing squad lined up.
Yeah, that FlyQuest had a pretty decent opportunity to move up towards that site, but they're waiting a little bit too long. And you were mentioning with the wall trying to come up and they can't really move in for a plant. That's because of, once again, Bunny B with the KO knife throws it towards the wall. It does get the hit onto Thea, so the wall has to drop. You waste 7 seconds because you're suppressed. When the wall comes back up, there's not enough time left to try to go for a tap, avoid salvos, and then go back for a replant, so they have to try to stick it. Again, there's a little bit of mismanagement, understanding that you're having to play against a KO and as well as a Teo when you have like these refreshable utility that are so good on this map. It seems very good on this map now from the way Ghost is currently playing against FlyQuest, because we're not putting that into account on the side of the attack. So I feel like this is a timeout that has to talk about that issue of how you actually understand better timings between the next timing at the refresh of the knife from the salvos to take better advantage of flood site takes on the side of FlyQuest.
At least you're gonna have a real rifle round for FlyQuest. It's been 3 in a row from Ghost Gaming, and you had to face like an outlaw. That was annoying, and Ghost Gaming just spamming you with better weapons usually. So FlyQuest, this will be their best chance to get back on that high horse and to not let this gap between in the score get too large, and especially for the economy to get too crazy for Ghost Gaming. This is an important round for FlyQuest.
Yeah. At least I'm starting to see the reason behind Ghost Gaming picking up the unsigned team of Overkill previously. Great game plan so far against FlyQuest. Really forcing FlyQuest to think outside of the box and try to bust through these rounds.
Hard to have time to think when you have Bob and everyone in your face. Like, the double duelist is just gonna have so much firepower, but Miara with 3 on an island solo just holds it down. Bob cleans up the third, and FlyQuest get back in control of the situation, leaving Ariel and Vanitas, one of them with an op, just maybe patrolling on the outside. I'm surprised Ariel's the one on rafters. At least is the one to get vision. They kind of coalesce together. The op is shut down. Bob's going for the ace and gets it. The iBUYPOWER ace for Bob from FlyQuest to get their first round of the half.
Also, that's what Coach Joe was saying during the timeout. Bob, just kill them all.
Bob go ace.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what can you do at this point, right? You just called it during your play-by-play here, Jen, that Kataris is able to get a trip kill with a Bulldog or Ariel even, and it was just looking so good for Ghost Gaming when they had so many good high-low positions to fight against FlyQuest hit. But then you have Bob that just activates. 20 kills in 17 rounds, 7-9 scoreline.
Oh my god.
Almost got stopped there, but this is an opportunity now for FlyQuest to break the timing.
The duelists have been isolated. Vanitas finally lands the shot onto Bob, stops them. What can you do against Lace? I don't think they expected the 2 duelists at the timing of Lace looking the other way. Oh wow, actually gets the backstab on Vanitas and the second on Miara. I thought Miara was gonna backstab Lace. Now Lace has to protect themselves as the rest of FlyQuest should probably go support that, but they weren't sure what Theo was gonna be up to, trying to push into Kitchen. Now you got the kill contract. Lace with that Bunny Bee, and Bunny Bee gets the win, so FlyQuest have to now pick up the pieces, and Ev does exactly that. Beautiful 3K for FlyQuest.
That was super nice by Lace. Laser beam by Bunny Bee, but no matter what, getting those, slipping through the defense of Ghost Gaming and getting those 2 backstab kills. And even if she loses that fight over there to Bunny Bee, you saw where Bunny Bee spawned right after that gulag. There was no chance that she could escape. And it allowed here FlyQuest to, and even Ev to get, what, a trade and a double kill to get a trip into the round. Very nicely done, as it was perfectly timed even for Lace to pull out that ult when the team was close to her. If not, maybe Bunny Bee could have survived and would have seen a different story. FlyQuest now breaking the econ. Has a chance now to tie up the game.
Big Bob versus Vanitas off the barriers being down. And then Lace gets to go unnoticed, and be a thorn in Ghost Gaming's side. So many duelists to worry about. Vanitas now has to go above and beyond, and even with the assist of a flash, Vanitas decides to leave. A double sheriff kill from Kataris, matched up by FlyQuest. The playing field is pretty even. Bob, though, is so locked in today. I don't know. She's just the GOAT. Bunny Bee, 5 HP. FlyQuest have evened things up 9-9. Are now on a 3-round win streak.
Yeah, at this point, when is Bob not locked in? She is just so good, man. I don't know what else to say about this player. I mean, she's been, grinding since the Sonics coming in from Australia, trying to grind up in, the VCTs back in, 2021. Their first opening, if I'm not mistaken, was against Sentinels on Split when they lost 13-1. But after that, whenever she started competing as well into Game Changers, you're starting to see, oh my god, she could clutch, she could open up, but she's also doing this as an initiator. But now being able to play duelist in the new year in 2025 and Game Changers and putting up even bigger numbers, why clutch when you could just open up and ace everybody? You know, you don't need to clutch if you're just gonna entry every time.
You have an ISO paired with that, so just being able to push with the wall and just to play off of Bob's contact too, like, there's multiple threats on this FlyQuest red team, and even incorporating new players, which is, okay, watch our flank and Bob Lace go kill, Ev give us info, they a pit, and lurk around. Like, FlyQuest have a solid plan going forward. It didn't, the half didn't start off well when they were forcing and just kind of having their eco pretty scrapped, but now that they're more comfortable spot financially, this is going to be looking a lot closer.
And with how Bob is being activated in the second, I like to call it fourth quarter, I guess, at this point.
Toxins going up.
It might look like FlyQuest could be running away with this game because there's no duels that can be won here. Nobody can really stop her. Maybe Miara and Bunny so far.
That extra tap too from Lace is kind of kills a lot of the value of an off because Vanitas able to crack that shield while the rest of FlyQuest get an open sight, and Ariel's been able to survive as well. They just have to watch through mid. FlyQuest could be on the hunt though. Ariel's gonna solo swing and look to do damage while the rest of FlyQuest patrol on their half of things, also watching the flank. Ghost, Vanitas with the op in position, and Bob gets shut down. Goes 1 for 1. An attempt at cutting through the mid-map doesn't work out for Ghost, but they could still depend on Vanitas to have the same sort of splash. But no one's really locking eyes with Vanitas for this Oct to find any value. Now you got the latest pit from Ghost to just hold this real estate, deny sightlines, and just the pit is immediately canceled by FlyQuest. Time is running out. Ghost can't do anything else.
That was still very nice by Lace. You were just mentioning a great call there, Lemon Kiwi, that Lace went solo towards the A side, pops up the shield to see where an op could potentially be. She gets hit by it, but still has full shield. And you notice as the round developed, she was just staying back towards the spawn. It was identified by Kataris, and they were waiting for the longest time, waiting for Lace to rotate. It never happened. And by the time they fall back and pull the pit up, Lace finally activates to go for the flank. It's unattended for, and then Lace even gets a kill in the backside towards the end. And a nice big round coming out on the side of an old IGL on the side of FlyQuest. Lace now just fully focusing as a duelist role. Help it with Bob to work towards the A side.
Vanitas doesn't have the op anymore, but is at least able to crack the shield of Lace before dashing out. Vanitas hesitates on holding these positions, finds themselves back into safety. Got the lockdown. It's gonna evacuate Ghost Gaming, and I don't think this KO is gonna be long for this world. Bunny B tried to go for a big play to at least go for a one and done spot. FlyQuest will plant as a result, able to keep most of their members. While Ghost Gaming on the perimeter, peeking solo before the team's really ready and waiting for this flank to develop, which Kataris has already been spotted and can't do much damage against a Lovely. And it's FlyQuest have just been able to win all these isolated duels. Ghost Gaming can't sync up.
Yeah, and using a shield from the side of Lace, kind of like a owl drone, so that you can keep the owl drone for later on the second phase if you hit towards the A site. Because right now, Ev is pulling this recon dart right towards the wall at the default spot. You have Lace moving forward, trying to clear up the space. It allows for Bob to even move up and get the lockdown up, and then now you can even drone even deeper into the A site on your hit. This is a very, very nice scaling coming out from FlyQuest, and ever since this timeout on the side of Coach Joe, it's been very, very clean from FlyQuest. I think it's been 5.5 rounds since the timeout.
Hey, Ghost Gaming trying to be aggressive off barriers being down to the scoring. Vanitas a bit better on the gamble. I mean, they only had the mix of sheriffs and whatever, and FlyQuest absolutely farmed them. They're able to deny a couple of rifles, but with the win streak, let's see, they're at a FlyQuest are at a 6-round win streak. They're on match point. This feels pretty secured for a win.
Yeah, the silver lining is that you mentioned like the bad buy that they had on the side of Ghost Gaming. At least they have rifles this time around with the lockdown to work with. Looking at the setup from Ghost Gaming, they have a turret watching very passively into two. But nothing really watching middle at this point. There's a huge gap to take advantage of for the side of FlyQuest. It's a weak side B hold where you see your KO, Bunny B having to jiggle back and forth all the time to look under tube and into B main. So FlyQuest, if they're going to run this on a default, it would be a good read.
FlyQuest can't get their util as deep because of this conditioning of, well, you just never know when Vanitas is going to run at you with the rest of the team, sometimes solo, so FlyQuest have to scale one step at a time, and this peek from Vanitas, juicy, but doesn't finish off their kills. Vanitas dashes away for really finishing off what they started, which now against Lace will get a second chance at that. A huge win for the duelists on the defense. Is brought back right in the faces of FlyQuest, planting in front of them, but deciding to abandon the project as Ev goes for kills instead. And now tries to secure things. The pit is brought out, but not enough to protect Ev. Spike has to be recovered, and as a Lovely has to join, abandoning the flank watch to now pull off a 2 versus 3.
What a huge play by Vanitas so far. Staying alive, holding and anchoring the side. That's 4 kills.
Left.
Trying to cosplay as Bob in this round.
Looking for the ace and was just so close to clipping Thea for the last one. This bunny may be hearing them around. You just have to play dodgeball if you're Thea. Just using your pit, being on the outside, and now just getting rid of the ult. No ace for Ghost Gaming, but staying in the shadow and trying to force overtime is definitely a possibility.
Yeah, and I liked what was starting off here for Lace moving forward. As she doesn't get picked, the best reaction that she did was actually quite good. Because once you force the Gulag, you're going back at full shields, full HP if you pop your shield in. It gives a chance here for FlyQuest to start scaling up. They had a great timing. You talked about Ev getting off this fight plan so they could swing out and go for these trades. It looked very good. But by not winning that fight against Vanitas, Vanitas was able to just run around the map right after towards the A site and get the 4K in a round. Now a chance here for Ghost Gaming to narrow that gap, force this into overtime.
Vanitas and Bob have to go alpha for their teams, and knives used from Bob through the mid cut. Bunny Bee keeps one duelist at bay as Ghost Gaming trying to play on the other side of the Viper wall, but a huge turnaround from Thea just to surprise him through the kitchen rotation. Bob get a backstab on his player, but man, a Lovely is just all over it. FlyQuest with a 13-10 win made quick work